This meeting is recorded because it is a community meeting, and it would be posted to YouTube after the meeting. Happy New Year's, yay. I'm so excited about this year and all of the upcoming projects that DVCC has. Before we begin with the business stuff, I'd love to make introductions and have everyone tell us about who they are and what organization or community neighborhood they're from. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go off the top of my screen. Elisa.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys. I am Elisa Rodriguez. I am the community liaison for the Del Valle Community Coalition. So excited to see everybody. And I'm looking forward to an awesome year.
Awesome, thank you. Pat King.
Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Pat King, and I'm from Burdall Farms.
Wonderful. Matt Worthington.
Hey, my name is Matt Worthington, and I am joining the Del Valle Community Coalition. So,
Councilwoman Vanessa Fuentes.
Hi, everyone. Vanessa Fuentes, recently elected and sworn in to serve and have the privilege of representing District 2 and Austin City Council. And I live in the McKinney Reserve. And so right off of McKinney Falls Parkway and William Cannon.
Thank you. Tony Maldonado.
Hi, everyone. It's Tony Maldonado, and I'm a resident of Burdall Farms in Meadows of Burdall.
Bo Ballard, is that your name? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi. I'm here from Congressman Lloyd Doggett's office. My colleague Luis will be joining at some point soon as well, also with the congressman. He's having some trouble with Zoom, but glad to be here.
Oh, there he is right there. Roy Woody.
How's it going, folks? Roy Woody, the secretary. You might see me shut my camera off because my son's running around trying to attack me. So.
Awesome. Luis Guerrero. We're doing introductions right now, Luis.
Oh, hey, I just logged in. Hi, everyone. My name is Luis, and I'm with Congressman Doggett's office. Good to be with everyone.
Perfect. Trustee Pantoja.
Hi, I'm Damien. There we go. I'm Damien. I am a trustee for the district, so I want to see what everyone's doing in the community.
You're muted, Susanna.
Of course I am. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our first community meeting. I'm Susanna Woody. I am the president of the Del Valle Community Coalition and a trustee for Del Valle ISD. I'm super excited about the upcoming year and what the coalition has planned, and I'm looking forward to working closely with everyone on this call, particularly, and everyone in the community. We're going to go ahead and get started with our first act of business. Remember, only those that are members can vote on these items. If you have any questions about your membership, please let me know, and I'll tell you if you're a member or not. Pretty much most of the people that are in the community on the call right now are, so shouldn't be any issues. All right, so the first item is to consider and act on Matt Worthington for DVCC Vice President. Before we take any action, Matt, would you like to talk about yourself or anything you'd like to say?
yeah, well, first, I'm really excited to be partnering with a lot of folks in the community. My wife and I have lived in Southeast for almost our entire time here in Austin. And, we came to Austin in a rather tragic circumstance because my mother got sick and we were trying to get as close to San Antonio as possible. And we made Southeast our home, and we feel like Southeast has kind of made a home for us too. And so my backgrounds in public education, and now I work in public policy. I do a lot of work around data and public policy. And my day job, I work for the LBJ School of Public Affairs, running data initiatives there. So.
All right, wonderful. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they'd like to ask or talk to Matt about before we take any action? And just so everyone knows, this is a community meeting. So this is all about community interaction, community conversation. So we're all in this together. We do have a Robert's Rule format, but because we're so small, we just talk, raise your hand, and we'll let you speak. All right, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint and accept Mr. Matt Worthington into the Del Valley Coalition.
Wonderful.
I accept. And this is for the, to be clear, this is for the VP1 position, right?
Yes.
All right.
Second then.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Perfect. Well, congratulations, Matt. You are now the new vice president of the coalition.
Yay.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, moving on. The next one is to consider and act on Claudia Zapata for DVCC treasurer. She is not on yet, but she is has a wonderful background, and I should have sent her a little paragraph of what she has done. I will say that based off of the conversations that I've had with her and her knowledge in reporting, she has worked for the state and for the federal government, so she knows a lot about nonprofits and what they can and can't do, and how money is allocated for different funding. So I really liked, what she had to say, and I wish she would have been down here so you could talk more to her. But anyone else want to add to that?
I would just say she is, she's been extremely knowledgeable in the current projects that we have been dealing with, and she's been very valuable to have. So I think she would be a great addition to our team.
All right, well, can I get a motion?
Motion to bring Claudia Zapata on as the DVCC treasurer.
All right, perfect.
Second that, now that I'm here.
Okay. All right, all those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Wonderful. Well, congratulations to Claudia, and we will let her know. Announcement on other opening positions. We do have a membership position that we need to fill, and going forward, we may have another one, and we'll talk about that more once we get some other things have to play into place before we go into that. But we do have for sure membership open. So if you know anyone in the community that's interested in helping us out with membership and all that entails, please just send them our way or let us know. All right, the next thing is to consider and take action on the meeting minutes from 9/28/2020. And y'all should have been able to open the link and review it.
They look good.
Do you want to? Do you want to share it on the screen, or should you want to share mine? Or
I can.
scroll down, or yep.
Let's see. Here we go. Share. Okay. All right, so basically it's going over what we talked about at the last meeting. We went over officers, the nonprofits updates, articles of incorporation, and bylaws. the treasurer's report. We went over dues and incentives. We went over emergency supplemental food drive. It was all mainly updates. There was really no actions for anyone at this meeting because it was a community update.
Motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
All right, do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, perfect.
I second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Or raise your aye. Any opposition, oppose? No. Any abstentions? No. All right, well, that passes. Wonderful. Thank you guys for dealing with all of our business. We got to get rid of this, take care of this stuff. So the treasurer's report, we were going to consider and take action on the closing budget, but in lieu of our new treasurer, we'd like to give her some time to really go over the data and, or not the data, but the accounts and how they align with the different line items, because she knows about that stuff and I don't. So I would like to table that until next month, if that's okay with everyone. Lots of head nods. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's see, DVCC upcoming projects. So Elisa, do you want to give us an update on our COVID relief and COVID response projects?
Yes, so we are going to have a couple of ongoing projects starting soon. One is getting PPE out to the community. So we will be able to continue our PPE drives like we have been doing since August of last year. We are planning currently, we have got one a month scheduled until September. Some months we have two going, so be on the lookout. Our first one will be on February 6th, and it will be, that's a Saturday, the first Saturday of next month from 9 to noon, and it will be at the Texaco. Again, we did it there in December. Off of Pierce and Ross Road. And so we will be calling for volunteers. We will need some volunteers to help out there. And so with that, the other project that we will have ongoing is in regards to the COVID vaccine. So we are getting the community's perceptions and feelings about the COVID vaccine. That is going to be the first part of the project. And so again, we will be sending out a link for community members to take this survey. So be on the lookout for that. And we would greatly appreciate it if you could share that with anybody that you know. It's quick 9 questions just to get everyone's ideas together so that we can know how to best serve the community. And then we will be offering information regarding the vaccine, where to get it, all of those kinds of things. So those are our 2 big projects that we will be working with the city of Austin as well as Travis County throughout this year.
Wonderful, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or concerns or comments they'd like to ask regarding those efforts? Or is anyone wanting to get more involved with those efforts? Please let us know. I'll give it a second or 2. Okay, before we go on, we do have another guest, Marilyn Diaz. Would you like to introduce yourself? Hello, Marilyn? Or Marilyn? Sorry. Okay, we'll come back to you. The next thing, well, this is our first meeting and we have a wonderful new councilwoman, and we wanted to take this opportunity to let her talk about, her position and what it's like to be on city council, her goals, and what her, first year plan is. with Austin and with D2. And then I know some people had some questions, so we will at that time ask questions after she does her presentation. Okay.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks everyone for having me on tonight. It feels good to be back here. As y'all know, Del Valley has a special place in my heart. And I also want to extend my gratitude for all of the efforts that this group has been doing amid the pandemic. I mean, y'all are first on the ground providing relief efforts. You know, as soon as the pandemic hit, Del Valley Community Coalition was giving out meals at the high school for folks who are in need all throughout the summer. I mean, Susanna can tell you, I think every 2 or 3 times a week, and Elisa and everyone who was involved, like, y'all so much. And it's so great to see and to hear from y'all still doing the work and putting the work in and doing all that you can to get information out to our community, and so that folks know that the vaccine is safe to receive and where to go to get it. And so I really appreciate that y'all are continuing your advocacy and your service to our community. So I just started a few weeks ago, and first and foremost, my priority is making sure that our community is protected and that we're able to recover from the pandemic and the economic crisis that we're in. And a large part of that is, for me, meaning to be vigilant in what's happening. And I recommend, if you aren't following Matt Worthington on Twitter, you should definitely follow him. He has some really good data and insight and is really good about keeping folks updated on the ever evolving vaccine strategy that we've been dealing with these last few weeks. And so with that, Council and Travis County Commissioners are meeting tomorrow for our second joint session. It's apparently very rare to have both of our local governmental bodies meet together, but this was something that that I helped push for. I felt very strongly that we needed to meet before the next council meeting. You know, I got sworn in, I think, on the 6th of January, and our next meeting isn't until 29th or the 27th, Wednesday. And so having that big gap, I was like, wait, we need to get together. We need to talk about what's going on right now. The vaccines are coming out, and we got to make sure they get in the arms of those who need it most. And so we were able to effectively advocate to get a meeting on the books. Now we have 2. And so if you I want to hear your feedback, if you have any questions about what else we can be doing when it comes to the vaccines, let me know, because I can ask tomorrow. Although I only get 1 question. Sometimes I might get 2 questions. So that's kind of what I've been focused on right now. And I'll dig into COVID vaccines and testing and all of that in a minute. But I do want to mention that I've also been having listening sessions, and we've had about 7 or 8 now. We started them last month. And so we've been going all through the district, having these listening sessions in neighborhoods where we've had a neighbor step up to host one for their neighborhood. And those listening sessions have been really, really good. I had 2 this past Saturday, and it was really interesting because the first one, we talked all about health and how to improve access to healthcare, and we know how we need more services, direct healthcare services. And then within hours in my next listening session, we were talking about policing and how we need to make sure that we're reinvesting in other forms of public safety. So having that kind of juxtaposition of interests and priorities is really good. And it's good for me to hear, before I start setting my priorities, what our community wants to see, what we need, and what the community wants prioritized. One of those things that I am moving on, and it's something that I committed to on the campaign trail, was to bring forth a resolution. And I'm very proud to say that this coalition adopted that resolution, or passed it, or y'all supported it at the Del Valley community meeting. I think it was back in October or September, I don't remember now. It was both Del Valley Community Coalition and the Southeast Neighborhood Contact Team both signed on to support this resolution. And so what it does is it basically builds flood protection and flood resiliency for our community. It asks that staff, first step, it asks that staff does an assessment of our flood management systems and our infrastructure, and then come back with with near-term recommendations. In the resolution, I included recommendations that were have already been put out there by the Flood Mitigation Task Force that was formed 4 years ago. And so, I'm trying to provide as much guidance to get things going, but this is really just the first step. And hopefully it's an easy first step for staff to work on. And the ask is that they come back with the recommendations, with the proposed ordinance change and some changes to our land development code as it relates to improving our flood infrastructure and improving our drainage infrastructure and making sure that any development, any redevelopment has proper provisions in place and standards so that we mitigate the impacts that development can have in our area. And the best part of it too is that it ties it into the community resilience plan. That's something that City Council talked about and considered last year, and it hasn't gotten going yet. So this is kind of the nudge to, hey, we need to build that community resilience plan. And part of it is looking at being flood resilient and making sure that when we talk about building out our flood resiliency, that we are doing it with the lens of equity and that we're prioritizing our communities that need it most. Because I'm sure I don't have to tell you all know that we had the catastrophic and deadly floods of 2013 and 2015 that displaced families, that we lost lives and caused damage to hundreds of homes. And so I'm excited to bring that forth in my first council meeting. Actually, we're doing that on Wednesday. But that's one of the initiatives. And of course, other initiatives that we'll be working on are food access, as we all know, is an issue near and dear to all of our hearts here. And looking at economic development, making sure that we're doing all that we can to make it easier for Austinites to stay in Austin and to afford their homes in Austin. So that to me means making sure that we're preserving our existing affordable housing. But there's a lot of stuff, a lot of issues in the works. But before I go down that route, it's these listening sessions that mean so much to me. And after we're done with the listening sessions, I'll come back around and we'll have that conversation and I'll say, hey, these are policies that we can pass in year one. This policy is going to take a couple years and it's going to take a lot of community organizing and advocacy. And this is where you all come in. Or this policy we can do in year 3. And so really taking the community along with me in that journey, because at the end of the day, I am just one vote. And so I have to get to 6, right? I had to count my votes. And so I see my role as ensuring that I'm empowering our community to make their voice heard and to help me show with the rest of Austin why we should have some equity, not some equity, why things need to be equitable and prioritize for the good of the majority. And so that's kind of what I'm working on right now. And then talking about COVID, we know that we are now entering week 7 of the vaccine rollout. The vaccine rollout started, of course, as you know, was led by President Trump and Governor Abbott. And so we are kind of dealing with that aftermath of having failed leadership at the highest of levels. I saw a news headline today that said that President Trump didn't have anyone dedicated to managing the vaccine rollout or anything related to COVID. So you can see that there's a lot of gaps, and certainly we've seen the disparities quite up close. We know, you can pull up the map, I'm sure Shoshana has the map of where the providers are located here in Travis County. And so a lot of the advocacy that we've been doing behind the scenes is ensuring that we get providers in the Eastern Crescent. Austin Public Health has stepped up to ensure that we've had sites in the Eastern Crescent, both at the Delco site and at the Dove Springs Rec. Those are 2 vaccination sites that are administered by APH. Keep in mind that there are over 300 providers in Travis County, a lot of doctors' offices, pharmacies. But when it comes to our community, APH and community care are our safety net providers. And so they have to be proactive and step up to fill in those gaps because we don't have that infrastructure. And a lot of that is due to the systemic racism and the legacy of racism we have in Austin, where our land code, our master plan racially segregated our city. And so we were dealing with decades and decades of institutional neglect. And so that is where a lot of my attention is right now, is the vaccine rollout. We know we simply don't have the supply that we need. We've had doses, I think the amount of doses we've had come into Travis County is less than 2% of our entire county population. So at this rate, it would take months before we could get to herd immunity. So we need much, much more supply. And the presidential administration has committed to ensuring that they have an ambitious goal of doing 100 million vaccines in the first 100 days. Can it be done? I think so. I really do. I'm hopeful that it can happen. And so we got to make sure that APH, community care, central health, Lone Star, People's Clinic, all of those safety net providers are prepared and ready to go so that we have the influx of vaccines, when we have the supply, that we're all ready to go. Now, some of the issues, and I hear your frustration and the confusion that a lot of our families have experienced when it comes to this initial rollout. It has been terrible, from calling the nurse hotline that's been giving, having it be jammed and people can't get through and they're not getting callbacks, to having technical issues with the website. The registration is not as easy as one would like. I know and I hear that, and certainly we are sharing all of that information to our public health department. We've been assured that changes are coming and that they've added 15 operators. So we now have 20 operators answering the phones. So that should help, especially as we continue to vaccinate our 1B folks, our elderly who are in the 1B, or individuals who have a chronic condition and qualify and are eligible. And so that is kind of where we're at right now. So if you have questions, let's dig in.
Okay, perfect. Wow, that was a lot to digest. I'm going to start off with a question regarding, okay, so we're in week 7 of the vaccine distribution within Texas. And as you know, an article came out that Texas, the way it's distributed by race, has a higher percentage of white people getting vaccines, but it doesn't correlate with the race that's getting impacted the most with the virus, which is the Latino and Black communities. So one of the issues that I had was that we don't have any providers out here in the Del Valle area. And, looking at their map online, it really does emphasize the lack of infrastructure that we have out here. And, like, as you said, the systemic racism and all that inequalities in our area. But what is APH and, council in Travis County doing to mitigate that issue, and so that doesn't happen, so those results don't align with what's going on in Travis County?
That's a great question. And that's a fair question, because as we've seen the state data so far, the vaccine distribution has not been equitable, and they're not getting into the arms of those who have had the disproportionate impact. And it's not good enough, right? At this point, the answers we're receiving is not good enough, and it's not quick enough. I wish I had better answers to give you, but what I'm being told by the staff who are on the ground doing the strategy and administering is that they are doing the best they can with the amount of supply that they have. And so APH, for example, has received about 18,000 vaccines that have actually been administered. And of course, this week they received another 12,000. And so 18,000 is less than a percentage point of what we need to get out there. And so it's very, very scarce. It's very limited, the amount of supplies that we have. So that's the first challenge. And so the second challenge is, how do we make sure that we're targeted in who we reach out to? Well, Dallas County recently had an effort where they wanted to target the hardest hit areas, hardest hit neighborhoods, which just so happen to be communities of color. They wanted to target their vaccine distribution to those areas, and the state threatened to withhold their supply. And so then it became a matter of, do we risk not being able to vaccinate anyone in our community, or do we go with, okay, we're going to have to think creatively of how do we get these vaccines out? And I'm seeing, counties are doing things kind of differently. Harris County just announced today they're doing a lottery-based vaccination strategy, so that it's just a luck of a draw when you get your call back to get a vaccine. And so those are some of the questions that I'll be asking APH tomorrow, and that I'm sure all of us will be asking is, what can we do more of? Now, APH has also committed to working with organizations like DVCC and other neighborhood organizations to build trust around the vaccine, to ensure that folks know to go get it. Carnegie Mellon did a study recently that said that in Travis County, we have an 85% rate of folks who said they will be getting a vaccine. So that's really good. We're not dealing with too much of a challenge there. But of course, you know, that's what I think it's good that we're being proactive and working with organizations to make sure that for our communities that they feel that safety and that trust in getting it. And so, yeah, so Susanna, that's kind of what we'll be digging in tomorrow, is figuring out exactly how are they queuing up people to get scheduled for the vaccine.
Great, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So sticking to the vaccine and the virus, does anyone have any questions pertaining to that topic for Councilwoman? Mr. Maldonado? I'm gonna go ahead and get to unmute. You have to unmute. Yeah, there you go.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you much. Thank you so much, Councilmember Fuentes, for all your advocacy in addressing the disparities for the COVID-19. The question that I also would like for you to bring to the forefront tomorrow, since it's going to be probably COVID driven and the topics you're going to be dealing with, is one of the reasons that we're in the situation we're in out here in Del Valle is that we don't have a brick and mortar community center or clinic. And I know that the county has already allocated funds for purchase of property. And I just would like to remind and ask you to move forward in advocating for our community to try to expedite the groundbreaking of that so that we could get a community clinic out here. I believe they purchased property on Elroy Road next to the Popham Elementary School about a month or two ago. So more of a statement, but if you could address that, if that's on your agenda for tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, is that we have the plan that I would like to see is the leveraging of every single asset that we have. I mean, Matt had a great idea of using the VA hospital that we have in Southeast Austin. They have huge parking lots. You should pull it up on Google Maps. It's like massive parking lots. And so doing drive-through distributions using CODA in the high school, the Del Valle High School, it's another site. So making sure that we have multiple sites pinpointed, and our fire station, that's another good one. So that when we get thousands of vaccines, that we're really targeting all of our areas.
Okay, great.
Wonderful, thank you. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Maldonado?
Yes, I do. I wanted to bring up the question regarding the Ross Road Paving and Drainage Improvements Project.
Okay, I'm sorry, 1 second. I'm sorry. Let's just make sure, does anyone else have any questions about COVID before we move on to the Councilwoman? No? Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Mr. Maldonado. Sorry about that.
Not a problem, I understand. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the status of the Ross Road Paving and Drainage Improvement Project for the section of Ross Road in front of the elementary school, the high school, and the middle school. I know that it was part of Prop 2, and I noticed on the news media they're reporting that that second proposition that was passed by the voters included Ross Road, but I noticed that they're already starting construction on the pedestrian walkways across the Longhorn Dam, which is part of also that Prop B or whatever. And I don't want Ross Road to go by the wayside. So I'd like to get an update from you as what staff is telling us about the estimated pre-construction schedule so that we can get that road and infrastructure built. With Tesla coming out, it's going to really put pressure on us as the schools are going to be getting probably increased enrollment out in the area to try to get that 20-year, I guess, late project that should have been done over 20 years ago up and running and constructed. So just want to ask about that.
Yes, thank you, Tony. And you're spot on. You know, the first briefing I got from staff on Ross Road is that it was slated to start construction in 2023. And that's too long. I mean, They've already done the pre-engineering preliminary report, and I've been told that the project was shovel ready. So I'm hoping that we can get to a more accelerated rate of breaking ground and having the expansion, having complete sidewalks and all of the repairs that were needed on our sidewalks on Ross Road. And so actually, coincidentally, I do have another meeting on it this week. I have raised it to staff how important it is. And so they have definitely taken note, and they're coming back to brief me on any new updates. And so we're really hoping that I'll have more news to share with you by the end of this week. And depending on what they share with me, I would like to work with DVCC to have some sort of town hall or an update that is just specific to the project, so that we can inform our neighbors about what to expect, because there's going to be construction on Ross Road. And so we want to make sure that all of our neighborhoods around that area know that it's coming and what to expect, and any diversion in traffic that's needed. But yes, that is definitely, I have flagged it for staff. They know it's important to me. They know that our office is keeping an eye on it, and I will circle back with you as soon as I have more information.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you need DVCC to, call to action, we will totally do it. We've done it before. We know how the city works, so we can definitely do that regarding that particular thing. Does anyone have any questions? Because I have another question, but I want to give other people the opportunity to speak.
Sonny, you have something pertaining to that? Go ahead, go for it.
Thanks, Roy. I just want to follow up with the Ross Road. I know that the CODA proposed improvements to build the condominiums out there in the water theme park. They had indicated, and I believe they put in writing, that they would contribute to the Ross Road construction at Pierce Lane, contribute the funding for a left turn lane that would hold, I think, 20 or 30 vehicles. I believe they contributed either $500,000 or $600,000 to that, or have dedicated that funding. So I'd like to go ahead and just put that on the table, as well as a funding source from that improvement at the CODA track. Thanks. That's my final point. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. How's it going, Councilwoman? You're asking for questions outside of Ross Road, right, Suzanne? Just to make sure. Anyone else have anything about Ross Road before I ask? Good. Okay. So my question was about the. So it looks like there's a proposal to use some of the police budget to buy 2 hotels to house the homeless. What are your thoughts on that project, and how do you? Or I don't know if I can ask how you plan to vote, but I don't know. Yeah, your thoughts on the project. Yeah.
I plan to vote yes. We have to put our unhoused neighbors into homes, and this is one way to get them shelter, to get them in places that'll help them in that transition period. And quite frankly, we're not moving fast enough. It's been a whole year and we're still continuing to buy homes, and hotels. And, buying hotels is a temporary strategy. It's a strategy. It's not the end all strategy. Talking about the homelessness challenge that we have here in Austin is going to be a hot topic in the next few weeks. There is an additional proposal coming forward on the next agenda, February 4th, it puts forth an initiative called HEAL, and that would basically take 4 areas throughout Austin and do kind of pilot projects where they inject social services and really do targeted outreach in an area. And so that'll be really interesting to see how the public takes to that initiative too. But for the hotels, yes, I'm in support. I will be voting yes on those hotel acquisitions. And, if there are any potential land acquisitions that come in District 2, I also will be communicating that proactively and letting folks know if and when to expect that as well.
Great, awesome, thank you. I have a question. Anyone else before we go to?
I do real quick about that hotel topic. Why those locations? There's no bus stops in that area either. I just looked them up, so I'm curious to know why those locations.
Yeah, that was brought up. I know the one in District 6 near kind of Lakeline didn't, like, the bus stop was more than a mile, I think almost 2 miles out. Yeah, you know, that's the thing, that staff goes and they look at the interior of the hotel. They make sure that the rooms have an actual kitchenette set up with a sink and an area where you can, you know, have food and make food. But I think that they look for, you know, real estate that is within their budget, that is supposed to have access to transit. Now that's an issue if it doesn't have adequate access. But in reality, they're trying to get a hotel in all of the districts. And so they have a certain methodology that they use to locate and to find hotels.
Now that I see that, and I just wanted to see if you were aware that there was not access to mobilization at these locations. Or at least there's not equitable access, because there's some, but it's not like most hotels have it within walking distance of their front door. These hotels don't have it.
You know, thank you, Damien, for raising that. That wasn't something that I think that we really talked through during the work session today. And now that you bring it up, I'm curious why we didn't hone in on that issue. But I'll make a note of it and inquire so that we can get some answers on that.
Yeah, because we would definitely want to make it like accessible to get there. You know, if it's not at a bus stop, how is the person going to get there if they don't have the means to drive themselves up there?
Yeah, and I will say, in full transparency, the hotel that is in Councilmember Mackenzie Kelly's district, she has asked for a postponement of that purchase for a week. So just FYI, that one very likely will get pulled and will be up on the next agenda. So that might give us more time to inquire about the transit options.
Perfect. Okay, we have 2 more minutes. Let me get this last question in and then we can go. What are some obstacles and barriers that you faced as a councilwoman that you weren't expecting to face and that you didn't know about, you know, as a private citizen, and that you're now seeing as a councilwoman?
There's a lot of red tape. I mean, like, you kind of expect that, but you don't really, like, you kind of think, oh, you know, once you're on the inside, all changes. No, there's a process and there are a lot. What I have learned is that, and what I'm still trying to navigate is how can I ask questions that elicit direct responses? Because oftentimes it seems to be easy to respond in a way that kind of talks around it, but doesn't give you a direct answer. And so I'm figuring out there's got to be an art and a science to asking questions and to get the information you want. When you only, like, for example, tomorrow, because there's so many of us and there's just so much information for the update, that we only get one question, right? So that has been another challenging piece, is really trying to be very thoughtful and intentional with the time that I have, and figure out a strategic way to ask for the information that I need. So those have been some of the surprises.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming back and joining us. You always are welcome to join all of our meetings. You know, you're one of our favorite people. Please feel free to join us anytime. Do you have any closing remarks before we move on to the next item?
Just thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for what you're doing. If you ever need anything, y'all know how to find me. Our office is super accessible. My office phone number is 512-978-2104. You want to save that if you ever need anything. I got a great team. And yep, I'm sure I'll see you around.
Awesome. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Good luck.
That was very insightful. And I know that Councilwoman Fuentes has always been open to us. So I appreciate that relationship. Moving on to Luis Guerrero with Congressman Doggett's office.
Hi, thank you, Susanna, for inviting our office to attend your monthly meeting and to the advocacy of your coalition members on behalf of Del Valle residents. Just pleased to be here on behalf of the Congressman with 2 quick updates, if I'm allowed to share them. The first is about the creation of a COVID-19 health equity task force through a executive order signed by President Biden last week. This task force will be led by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, which, pending Senate approval, would be former California Attorney General and former Ways and Means colleague of Congressman Doggett, Javier Becerra. One of the task force main objectives will be to provide recommendations to the Biden administration meant to address the health inequities caused by COVID-19, including how agencies can work with state and local offices on best allocating resources in the hardest hit communities. And I want to assure a leading role for the President's Health Task Force will be, to ensure that people of color who have borne the disproportionate impact of infection and death get access to vaccines without the interference of Governor Abbott. My second update is that the Congressman believes we have to overcome the shortcomings at the state and the federal level. A week before the conclusion of the Trump administration, they announced that they would release all the vaccines in its reserve. But hours later, we found out that there was, in fact, no reserve to release at all. And last Thursday, we discovered one reason why the Trump task force was so uncooperative during the 2+ months of the transition. And that was because the Trump administration had no vaccine distribution plan. Congressman Doggett has urged the Biden administration to get the vaccines directly to the local governments, bypassing Governor Abbott, who has threatened to reduce vaccine allocations to counties that prioritize residents in the hardest hit zip codes. And we will continue working with local officials on this effort. And lastly, I just want to, point out that as we move forward on this, it's important not to create false expectations, because we simply do not have sufficient vaccine supplies to meet all the needs. Seniors and eligible Group 1 neighbors should get in line for vaccines, but this doesn't guarantee that vaccines are yet available for everyone in line. So in the meantime, just encouraging everyone to continue masking and social distancing. If folks have any questions or concerns, particularly about issues on the federal level, I'm happy to write them down and share them with the congressman. And thanks again for having me.
Awesome. I'm going to start off with the question again real quick, and then we'll go around. My first question is going to be that there is rumors about a third vaccine that is not up to par with the other current vaccines that will be distributed to marginalized communities. How do we prevent that? And is Congressman Doggett aware of this? And does he have a plan to make sure that that does not happen?
Are you referring to the AstraZeneca vaccine? Yes, that came up. That issue was raised in an Awesome Latino coalition, which we're both a part of. And, we had Matt join us there as well. And it's a concern that I share with the congressman. I can't really speak on behalf of him on this issue because I haven't talked to him directly about it, but it's something that I will raise again and get any feedback on that.
Okay, perfect. Because just so you know, I will personally throw a fit and raise an alarm on that one. All right, any other questions? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, this is kind of a follow-up to that, right? I think the response I've gotten from talking with folks is, it feels like it's impossible to get providers in Southeast. And when I brought up the idea of the VA hospital, I not only shared that with Vanessa, but I also shared that with the state rep. And the state rep asked Dishes about it. And what I was told was Dishes is concerned that keeping track of vaccinations, if one provider shares out to, like, for instance, mobile clinics, like if the VA hospital, even if they weren't going to directly administer it themselves, if they were to store the vaccine so that it could be sort of satellited out into the community through mobile clinics, that Dishes was concerned that that kind of model could be problematic in terms of keeping track of it. But at the same time, DSHS didn't say no. They said that the VA hospital would have to agree to it and be responsible. And so that's something I would love. I know that Congressman Doggett's already been in contact with the VA clinic in Southeast, and I just think it's probably the best facility in Southeast to sort of store and manage a vaccine like this. And I know it's not typically used for community purposes, but we're not typically in a pandemic, you know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks for your feedback.
And it seems like a potential solution for the issue that Susanna just highlighted, right? I think that would be a great way to sort of ensure that the AstraZeneca vaccine is not the only one being offered in Southeast.
Yeah, definitely. I will be sure to raise that with the congressman. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question or that would like to comment to Congressman Doggett's office?
I have a question. Do you know if there's would Representative Doggett be willing to sign on to say if there's something that covers the cost of COVID-19? Because we know there's some areas where people are paying for the vaccine. Would he be willing to push something like that or sign on to if someone brought a bill like that to the floor?
Yeah, it's a great question, Roy. You know where in particular these communities are having to pay for the vaccine?
I don't know, but I've seen people saying they've had to pay, but I'll have to go check again.
I think
okay.
Go to your private your provider if you're not in the if you're not with Austin Public Health or with Community Care, and you go to like your primary physician, they will charge you to get the vaccination. It's not free for everyone. That's why people are trying to go through APH and through the UT because they don't want to have to pay that extended amount of funding.
So it's the folks trying to get the vaccine through their provider that are having to pay?
Yeah, their insurance and their providers.
Okay. Yeah, I'll certainly look into it, and share it with the congressman. And like I said, he's a big proponent of the Health Equity Task Force that was just created by President Biden, which their main goal is to ensure equity, during this crisis. But thanks for raising that, Roy.
All right, Mr. Maldonado, you have a question?
Yeah, it's not COVID related, but hi, Luis, Tony Maldonado. I just want to ask a question, and it's related to the hopefully not too far in the future infrastructure emphasis by the new administration. I know that there is a plan that's been discussed by the Texas Department of Highways and Public Transportation regarding grade separations at every signalized intersection on Highway 70 East once you leave Austin to get you through Bastrop and all the way to I by the signalized intersection. So is Congressman Doggett willing to take the lead at trying to emphasize this as one of the major infrastructure works that needs to be at the forefront for Southeast Travis County and Bastrop County and so forth?
Hi, Tony. You cut off there a little bit in the middle of your question. What was the name of the road that you're trying to get the congressman to advocate for?
Highway 71 East. Once you leave Austin, where the Austin Bergstrom International Airport is, there's several locations between Austin and Bastrop and Smithville that you have to stop at traffic signals, and it creates congestion for the communities. And I know the highway department has indicated they want to do grade separations at each of those major intersections so that once you leave Austin, you never have to stop at a traffic signal unless you pull off the main interstate or the main highway. Would Congressman Doggett be willing to take the lead on that with our state leaders and federal partners to try to emphasize that as part of an infrastructure program for Southeast Travis County?
Yeah, thanks for your question. I can't really speak on behalf of the congressman since I haven't spoken with him about this matter, but I'll be sure to raise it with him and we'll follow up.
I sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, in addition to that, I'd like to bring up the toll roads that are surrounding our economically disadvantaged community. That has been one of the a big issue for a lot of our community. So I would ask if he would support Senator Zaffarini's resolution to what was it, for the school buses not to be charged on toll roads, and then add something for community access that allows the community within those toll roads to also not be charged, because those toll roads are mainly for people coming in and out of the city of Austin. And, you know, our community is being impacted by them. And so we're getting basically double taxed. So if he could look into that, that would be greatly appreciated.
Is it a Texas Senate bill?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to double check, but I'll definitely send it to you. Damien, do you
Sure.
know what it is? I think she sent it to us.
I'm looking, not off the top of
Okay.
my head though.
We're looking. I know it's out there because she sent it to the school board and wants school boards to help push it. And while we have you online, so might as well push it to you too. Let's see. And then obviously we want to not have to pay our student loans. So that would be great if he would push that as well. Let's see.
I guess it's like
and
while
I
you're
just-
here. No,
Yeah.
go for it.
Well, I just wanted to say we're having a town hall February 7th, focusing on issues affecting the youth, the millennial generations, the young generation, and one of those topics will be student debt, and please tune in so that you can hear the congressman himself answer these questions, in detail.
Awesome. And then the last thing I like to say is that I know that the minimum wage for $15 an hour is something that is being talked about nationwide. But I mean, if you think about, $15 an hour, it's really not a living wage. So I'd really like him to consider thinking about an actual living wage for our communities, especially, our community of color here in Del Valley. We're impacted. We don't even $7 an hour is the current minimum wage, and we're right outside of the city of Austin, which is just not feasible for many people. So if he would look into, a living wage, that would be great.
Yes, I took all these notes down, and I'll follow up with folks.
All right, one more question, and then we can go.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Roy.
Would Representative Doggett be willing to sign on to Representative Tlaib's letter to not expand the national security powers based on what happened at the Capitol? She put a letter out there because we already know, once something major like that happens, it's a stepping stone to the government expanding powers and doing surveillance and more things like that. Would he be willing to sign on to that letter? A letter to Representative Pelosi and a letter to Mitch McConnell. Yeah.
From Congresswoman Tlaib, the Michigan Congresswoman?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
All right. Well, I think that's all the national stuff I have. I mean, I have a lot more, but, let's focus on Del Valley. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Maldonado. One more question.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Thank you again, Luis, for taking the notes and following up. When can we expect to hear back from you, and what format will you use, Susanna, to get the word back on the response?
I have great contact with Luis, and so as soon as he can come, he can email me or text me, or he can call me. And then next week or next month, hopefully we can have a public update to the community on what he was able to provide or get through with the congressman.
And I just want to note that the best way to get answers to your questions is by communicating to our office directly. You can either call us, and I can provide the phone number in the chat box, or send us an email, and we'll respond to you directly. And you can also subscribe for our updates, which address, current issues. So I will drop all those links in the chat box, but if you have any more particular questions, I strongly encourage you to sign up for our updates. And lastly, I just want to give a shout out to my colleague, Bo, who's on the call as well, taking notes. So thanks, Bo. And we'll follow up with folks, as soon as we can.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining. And, Congressman Doggett is one of our favorite people out here in Del Valley. He always represents and comes out and supports us. So we appreciate his local support. And then hopefully we can get some more feedback from the questions that were asked for today. So thank you guys for joining the call. And hopefully we'll see you again next month.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to move on. At this time, we're going to open up the meeting to any community members or anybody that wants to just talk about who they are and what their concerns are. All right, so we can start with Elisa. I have you first.
I don't have any questions right now or concerns.
All right, perfect. Ms. Pat King, do you have anything?
No, I don't have any questions. I've just been listening because I just got a whole lot of information. So I've just been listening, writing down.
And these are this is recorded, so we will upload it to our YouTube, so anybody
Oh, great.
can share
Okay.
it and watch it over again. All right, Mr. Maldonado, do you have anything you want to talk about?
No, I appreciate all your leadership, Susanna and Ms. King and everyone else on the board, Elisa. Y'all doing a great job. Keep up the hard work. I have been working a little bit and meeting with other groups, with the Tesla group, to talk about their traffic impact analysis and studying some of the traffic volumes and expecting some feedback, because I've been working directly with, I guess it's Trevillion's office, Jeffrey Trevilion, the precinct for that particular part of town. So looking at that stuff as well. My area of interest is more infrastructure, paving and drainage and highways and things like that. And I appreciate you guys taking the leadership role in the COVID things and the other inequities. But thanks again. Appreciate being invited to the call.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I have one more question. I'm sorry.
No,
I meant to announce that Austin Neighborhood Association is they're in the middle of their membership drive. So if you guys want to join ANC, just want to let you know. And I have the membership forms if you guys are interested in joining it.
Okay. Yeah, I know DVCC, we are a neighborhood association separate from the nonprofit. So we'll definitely talk about that in executive session and see how that goes.
Okay.
Bo? Sorry, am I saying your name right?
Yeah, it's Bo. I'm all good.
Perfect.
Thank y'all for the awesome work that y'all do.
Okay, thank you. Roy?
Nope, good to go.
All right, Mr. Pintoja, what do you got? Not that face. You're good? Okay. All right. Matt, you have anything? All right. Luis, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Marilyn, do you have anything you want to add? I don't know if you're still on.
Hi, sorry, it's Marilyn. Sorry about earlier. I was having some issues. So I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Marilyn Diaz. I grew up in Del Valley, went to school at Del Valley High School. We still have property right there off of Pierce Lane. So I just wanted to get on board and see how I could help. I work for TWC, the Texas Workforce Commission, Civil Rights Division. So I have a lot of insight there that I could possibly be of some help. And I just wanted to get more involved in the community part of Del Valley since my mother is still out there. I'm about to be a part owner to her property as well. So I will be out there almost pretty much every other day here and there, helping her as much as possible with her home and property and managing it. So anything I can do to help, please feel free to reach out. Happy to help.
Awesome, thank you. And we look forward to getting you more involved with everything. That's all I have for today. I do want to thank everyone. This is our first meeting. We do have a lot of stuff going on. Please go to our Facebook, join our group and our page, visit our website. So, you know, we obviously can use input on the website and how to make it better and more user-friendly. So if you have any comments or updates that we should do, please let me know. And that's all I have. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.